Hello, a very good afternoon, everybody. I know I truly, as Sabita was saying, I'm truly standing between you and lunch. I still have 20 minutes. Let me try and make the best of it. Thank you for the invite. I know it was kind of a last-minute rush, but let me try and give my perspectives on how recruitment, talent, business context changes, and diversity all come together to form or to get into what we call execution. Now, when about a year ago I came into Madurai, we said, you know what? Our whole business context is changing. We had a whole lot of eminent speakers in the morning that talked a few things about it. Like, from an IT services standpoint, if you look at it, now, gone are the days when people try and do a lot of Java work, a lot of coding work, a lot of active development work. And slowly, the days of maintenance and support of erstwhile old applications are also going away. So where is the world really heading to? The world truly is heading to that kind of a service where the IT infrastructure, the IT software, the business processes get to truly reside out there in the cloud. And we need people who actively can try and modify, engage, manage the services on behalf of customers. Truly put. It could be a data scientist job, it could be kind of an analytics job, it could be in terms of supporting the applications, could be in terms of monitoring the applications. Like when we talk of these kinds of things, the question immediately popped up to our mind about a year ago, hey, we're going to Madurai. How much of it is truly being done in colleges and schools in Madurai? How much of this is being understood locally in Madurai, especially because we're saying our core focus is going to be setting up operations, setting up unit in Madurai. And what's the goal? We're going to be 5,000 by end of next year. That's the target we're working towards. It's humongous, right? So when we're working on something towards that, there are certain stumbling blocks that you would typically go over. So this mindset that we had, saying Madurai is one place which may not get you the right talent, was a hypothesis that we proved ourselves wrong. Let me tell you why. Today, HCL Madurai is about 1,036 people big. And 40% of those are women. 40% of those are women. 923 of them are local Maduraites. People who have been screened, filtered, interviewed, and onboarded into the system from in and around Madurai. That's what the city has to offer. Now, when we went about the process of, okay, we understood our business context has changed. Now, we also have a need to get into execution quick. How did we go about doing this? How did we get the recruitment kicked off? Is something which I think I've got to share with you. Now, we said our biggest real problem, many IT services firms see out there in the tier 1 locations, is attrition. Let's face it, attrition. And you know what? Everybody thinks HCL's biggest threat is, say, an Infosys, a Cognizant, what have you. A Wipro, right? I say that's not true. My biggest problem, my biggest threat has been agriculture. You know what? Agriculture. How is agriculture my real threat? So if you look at people, about 43% of people in HCL Chennai and Bangalore are from down south. They all have acres of land. Many of them have acres of land back home. They have a pressing need to come back home when they are 35, 40, 45 years of age. So we said, you know what? We want the best of people. We want people who understand technology, who understand the industry. We want people to be available where they want to be. Let's go local. What is local? They're all from in and around Madurai. Let's go to Madurai. That's the genesis, right? So with this theme was how the filtering was done, how the interviews were done, and so on and so forth. Now, this is one aspect of how you try and solve or how you tackle the business problem. Now there's the people element to it, which is what this summit is all about, right? How do you tackle the people problem? When I say people problem, there are several dimensions. We did have our friend, Mr. Sridharan, who talked about the first question that many people get asked, which is what I got. I mean, I had to face myself, right? When people came and asked me, hey, Subba, sir, what time can I go home? Come on, you've not even been onboarded into the system. You've not even been onboarded. That's reality. And that's from people in here. Well, it's people from anywhere. I think that's how the mindset is changing. So one of the things I would request of the academia would be to try and imbibe skills which I would want to call the service attitude. Service orientation or the service attitude, because that's what this whole IT services industry is all about. I mean, if you take pretty much many industries, I mean, thanks to how our GDP is growing, right? A whole bulk of it is still services, and that's where the world is heading to. That's where India is heading to. Now, service is about how you look at what somebody wants, cater to that person's, could be your customer, could be anybody, right? That person's need appropriately. So here I use the word appropriate. I'm not saying to however they want, right? There's certain situations when you might have to go back and tell them, saying, hey, this is not possible, or this is truly possible. What I see of kids being recruited from in and around this area, that's a direct feedback which I get to pass on to several of the academia folks that I get to interact with over the last 8 months, 10 months, has been, let people not be brash. Let people try and understand what is it that customers want, what is it that organizations want, right? And try and respond to that. It's not about technology. Technology is something that schools, colleges get to teach, right? So what is it about? It's about the ability to listen, the ability to comprehend, the ability to digest, provide a solution, as Reiko was talking about, provide a solution back to whosoever is asking. Right? That's going to be of immense value. That's going to be immense value to organizations like ours. In fact, many in the industry is going to be asking that. Now, that's the second dimension. So we kind of spoke about how the business context was changing. The second dimension is about people. So amongst this, for people, we talked about service attitude. The second, which I strongly believe is required for many of us, both people and organizations, to succeed, is what several of us have been talking about, is communication. Right? When I say communication, it is the ability to comprehend and converse in your own style. Doesn't have to be in any polished style, in your own style with whosoever you're speaking with. It can be your customer, it can be your management, it can be a co-worker, it can be a vendor, it can be anybody else. Right? So the ability to converse in meaningfully right English, grammatically right English, is one thing that I would request and urge the academia to spend enough time, right from the schools and into colleges, focus on that. This is going to be extremely important. Preferably English, because English is widely spoken, English is widely accepted across several parts of the globe. So that's an earnest ask from many of us, and that's one of the reasons why, as an organization, we try and train people to the job, right? So tackling people problem is about a few soft elements like service orientation and service attitude, tackling the communication problem, and 3, make it extremely point job based, right? We've been having in the past, how academia has been working has been like, okay, same student, like many speakers spoke in the morning as well, same student, and try and drown him or her in a whole bunch of all languages, all technologies possible, give him or her soup to nuts of anything and everything. Well, that's not fully required when you look at certain jobs. So it's important that you get people prepared for jobs. So try and identify, like I think some speakers in the morning talked about, when you get people into the colleges, try and have them focused on specific jobs, targeted for specific jobs or kinds of jobs. Get them trained for those kinds of jobs, be it on technology, be it on service orientation, be it on the language from a communication standpoint, right? And the fourth element that I would like to talk about is, now, specifically Madurai. I'm given to understand that most of the audience today is from in and around Madurai and several places from Tamil Nadu. So this is primarily Tamil Nadu, right? So some statistics, I'm sure many of us know from our own colleges and schools standpoint, but not necessarily across Madurai as a center. So this was a market research that we did. Every year about 11,000 engineers pass out in Madurai from the surrounding Madurai, or the kind of greater Madurai area. Less than 23% get jobs in whatsoever jobs. The rest of them do not necessarily get placed in jobs, primarily because when we did our analysis, we talked about the service attitude, service orientation, talked about communication, not so much so about technology. Everybody seemed to have technology. So some of the positives that we took back from our study was, this place is one, in and around Madurai is one which is infested with a lot of technology talent. What's required is to bring the technology talent out in a presentable fashion to the industry, to the market. And that's where I think we all need to be working towards. So from an inclusion and diversity perspective, personally, as Sabita was saying, and to HCL as well, gender is outside work. So we focus on work. It can be done by anybody. And diversity is not only about gender. We focus a lot on persons with disabilities, because we've seen a lot of success, especially in this Madurai centers that we're running. We have a little over 1% of our workforce with PWD, as we call persons with disabilities. Lot of talent in them for whatever reason, given mobility, given whatsoever, in our corporate world, in prime locations, tier 1 cities like Chennai and Bangalore, we don't induct or embrace them as much. So I'm personally working with several NGOs in this region to bring folks on board to several jobs within our organization who can get to cater to, one, ourselves as a company, and two, to our customers. In fact, my financial services arm in Madurai is all 100% women, locally recruited from Madurai. 100% women. There's only one male, and that turns out to be a manager who came down from Chennai to manage that team. Yeah, this is a team of 93 people. 100% women today. And that's where our focus is, our inclusion is completely into. So, ladies and gentlemen, there are a few areas that I think we need to be focusing on. One is standpoint of service. Two is standpoint of communication. 3 is how we get include people. In fact, do not exclude people. Automatically people get covered. So that's how we do diversity. So diversity is in your thought, it's in your mind, it's in your action. Every little word we speak, every action we make speaks diversity, how inclusive we are, right? The kind of people that we have recruited when we did our study last month for Madurai specifically, you'd be surprised. Many of them are folks whose parents have either been plumbers, carpenters, kind of folks, not necessarily into even a job-going cadre. Forget government service in and around Madurai. And so far, touch wood, I think these folks have been doing phenomenally well. Madurai Archie. Yeah, that's what HCL Madurai is today. Lot of Madurai Archie in HCL today out here in Madurai. One last thing that I would like to talk about is when we bring diversity in terms of disability, in terms of gender, we typically have a thought saying, hey, things won't work. Things will never work. We have to have different policies. I would differ a little bit. As an organization, what we have done is we have looked at enablement. We've looked at to see how do we enable them to succeed as good as well as anybody else in the work environment. It could be from an access standpoint, it could be like women, right, as an example. Many of the women have come back and expressed to us saying, hey, you know what, prime time is 6:30 to like 8:30, 8:45 in the evening where we have to be back. End of the day, Tamil Nadu, ladies, women, the expectation is that they have to be back home. No matter what they're doing, it could be a little bit of cooking, it could be taking care of the kids, could be taking care of the parents, elderly folks, what have you, it doesn't really matter, right? What really matters is their presence is required at home. Enable it, right? Give them alternate work options, right? Let them get to work from home a little later. Give them those options, trust them. Enable them to be mobile enough to work. When I say mobile enough to work, I'm not saying send them a cab, I'm saying allow them to go back home a little early if required. Be flexible with them, right? That's the kind of mindset that's truly required in order for us to embrace. I mean, some of our front office staff are folks that have vision disabilities. How do we make them succeed? Give them software. Give them software that will enable them to still perform the job, front office job, right? Designed in such a way that they can still do the job of listening to stuff. Of course, there are special keyboards that they have. Bring in those keyboards, those technology elements, so they can still get to work on IT systems, IT processes for your own office environment. Those are the kinds of thinking that we have to bring on to ourselves in order for us to make it a very, very inclusive work environment. Now, this is of paramount essence. The biggest resistance that typically you'd get to see would be from the business account teams who end up servicing the end customers, would say, hey, this won't work, I can't have women in my team, I can't have persons with disabilities in my team, right? Help them, allow them to grow, allow them to understand, and that level of maturity would slowly set in. So there's an ask from the employer standpoint, which is what we are looking at. There's an ask from the academia standpoint in terms of where you want to train, how you want to train, right? 3 important things. My dear friends from the academia, a lot of technology training is being done. Kindly focus on the software elements, service, communication, and inclusion. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Wish you all the very best.